ESPN, and I'm like 25 years her senior, and but we're from similar areas. I went to W.T. White High School, had a ton of friends that went to Trinity Christian Academy in its early days as a school. Stadium named after Tom Landry, um, and then Dave Hunziker, our play-by-play voice, went to Mizzou. Kris is a Mizzou grad, and then I was reading that she got her interest in journalism by her godfather, who was an anchor at WFAA in Dallas, which was the TV giant. They killed in the ratings. Vern Lundquist was my mentor, and I interned with Vern at WFAA, and was one of the great experiences to get me started in what I was doing. So, Kris, how are you?
I'm good. What a small world.
It is, and I don't know if you're down on the field where I am, so I don't know how much time you spend up in the booth, but yeah, my captain on my broadcast, Dave Hunziker, is a Mizzou grad, and in fact, I've been kidding him during the preseason. Christian Holmes, the corner for Oklahoma State, number 0 that transferred in as a grad transfer, has been marvelous. I mean, he's been impressive. Brandon Whedon was at a practice several weeks ago, and he looked at me. He said, "Who is this 0?" I said, "Well, that's Christian Holmes from Missouri. He's a grad transfer." And he goes, "Yeah, that's pretty good. Thank you, Missouri." And I said, "Yeah, it's the best thing we've had from Missouri since Dave Hunziker." Um, but no, yeah,
Yeah,
you grew up at
I've talked to Dave several times at basketball
okay,
games, and it's funny because we're a couple years removed from when he went and I went, but like my mentor at school was Chris Gervino, who was on the radio at Mizzou
is his
still,
roommate.
and so it just becomes a very small. The longer you're in this, you realize just how small of an industry it actually is.
Yeah, Chris is a good friend of mine, and he was Dave's roommate. I've known Chris
Oh
forever, so oh yeah. I mean, we're all a bunch of old graybeards, but
yeah.
now I wanted to ask you this too. Your godfather at WFAA, the
Scott
anchor,
Sams. Yep.
who was it?
He Scott Sams.
Oh, Scott Sams. Okay, all right.
Yeah. He
I
was
see.
there
He
for about
was
18 years.
there. You
And
go.
then, yeah. And I was doing
Okay,
some radio stuff.
okay. So there. Okay, there you go. And that the guy, the group that was there, Viola and Troy, and then of course Vern, and then after Vern was Dale. But I was around in the really old days. I interned when Vern was sports director before he went all network. So
When you
anyway, it
go
is.
watch
It,
Express or Access, the 30 for 30 documentary, it's a
I was at
really interesting perspective of everyone who has come through the Dallas market.
the press conference. I was at Channel
No
4 in
way.
Oklahoma City, the NBC affiliate, working for
Hmm.
Bob Berry Sr. And Bob Sr. said, "I need you to go down to this press conference. This is going to be pretty important." And I
Hmm.
said, "It's SMU. We don't cover S." He goes, "Nope, this is going to be important." And of course, lo and behold, a few years later, he was right because Oklahoma State got the second worst probation in NCAA history. I'm not exactly proud of that fact, but
Yeah.
no, it was yeah, and I've seen the documentary many times. That was an amazing. That whole deal was amazing. And I tell you, Kris, this is off the topic. What was the most amazing was the next day or right after the press conference, you went outside and there were coaches from 30, 40, 50 schools
That's
that were there
insane.
just to start claiming SMU players. It was a meat market.
Yeah. I'll tell you the thing that I still find the most interesting from that documentary, and your listeners are like, they've gone on a random tangent, but is when Dale Hanson's sitting there with the check being like, is this your signature? And it's going to run like tomorrow on the Sunday night sports show. Like that would never exist now. Like you would never hold on to that kind of
No.
news for almost 48 hours and have everyone tune in to the Sunday night sports show to watch this all go down.
Thanks to social media, and here's the deal, because of all that, we were just talking about how social media has changed fans. Oklahoma State used to be known as a school that cheered for its kids and even clapped for the opposing team, and they weren't brutal. And those days are long gone. Social media
Mhm.
allows all fan bases to be brutal.
Yeah.
Um, so anyway, hey, you got 2 weeks in a row in Stillwater. Is that
Yeah.
a good Is that a good thing?
So I'll say this, like, it's really nice, just in terms of prep, because it's hard to get to know a team in 6 days and to really get a sense and a feel for the team. So covering, in basketball, we pretty much covered like you're in a league, or like I did SEC Network for years. I really got to know and get a grasp of those teams. So 2 weeks back to back is really nice. Now sometimes when I did SEC Network, we had South Carolina 5 times, and at that point you start to run out of new things to talk about. Even though we want to think we have a new audience every week. A lot of it is carryover who are just fans of that team. But I'm actually really appreciative of being able to have them back to back, just because I got a sense of the vibe down there, and how does that change week by week? If I was coming into this week without doing last week's game, like I wouldn't have really got a sense for the feel of when Illingworth came in, and the appreciation for him and what the crowd reaction was like and how the dynamic of the sidelines changed. Like I feel like I have that understanding having done it back to back.
Well, and just getting a neutral, absolutely outside point of view with no attachment, because obviously I'm on the team radio network. What were your thoughts of the Tulsa game? Because obviously it may have been what people weren't expecting on either side of the ball. I think we kind of knew the defense was going to be better, but I think outside people were skeptical. And then offensively, everybody expects it to be a juggernaut. And obviously, when Spencer went down and some offensive line issues, it was far from it. So, what were your thoughts of what you saw last Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, I thought that Tulsa did a pretty good job of containing Tuba as much as they could. I mean, I expected, you know, you guys to come out and put 21 points on the board in the first quarter. So I thought that was surprising. Um, Tylen not having the catches in the first half. I didn't know how much of that was just getting used to gameplay. I know he took off the brace only halfway through camp and might have had a tweaked groin. How much was that? So, and then I also wonder, the more you talk to players, like the anxiety and the feel of like having a game pushed back. Like you go into a week on a Monday and like in your mindset, that's game week. And then when you find out that gets delayed another week, like does it just kind of take the wind out of the sails a bit? So I think this week will be a better determination of who this Oklahoma State team is. I think we learned a lot about Tulsa and some of its mismanagement game wise. They have a lot to work on as well. But I'm excited to see what it's always a different kind of intensity once you reach conference play. So I think we'll learn a lot more this week.
Well, and the other thing is, I thought during the summer when West Virginia was on the schedule for November, I said, this isn't going to be good because this West Virginia team, I think they're pretty good. And I think they're only going to get better during the year. And I have a lot of respect for Neil Brown and his staff. I think Neil's a tremendous young coach. And so when they got put on the schedule and bumped up to, the first conference game, so, okay, well, that'll be better because, it'll take them a while. But they got a really nice run with an easy Eastern Kentucky team. And honestly, Kris, I think this West Virginia team is going to be a tough out on Saturday.
Yeah, they look good. Their run game looks so much better than last year. I talked to Letty Brown this morning. Again, hard to get a sense of them. They have 11 players out that first game with a suspension. But I think this team comes in with a lot of confidence. It'll be interesting to talk to some of the Oklahoma State players later in the week. I'll get a chance to of just I don't quite know a feel for what they thought of their game on Saturday. Kind of escaping you did hit some adversity, which was nice. I mean, most teams don't in that first week get a chance to prove themselves when they hit some adversity. So I'd be interested to know their takeaways from it.
Well, and I think one of the positive qualities about a Mike Gundy coach team, and I noticed it again on Saturday, they don't flinch. They don't, when Spencer went out, you didn't see everybody's head drop. They've been, it's been pounded in them, body language, attitude, play the next play, and just keep going. And I made mention of that. I was talking to one of the analysts on Mike's staff yesterday, and I told Kris, I said, hey, the cool thing was this team they didn't panic. And he
Mm-hmm.
goes, well, yeah, that's Coach Gundy's thing. And so that's one thing that allows them to kind of work through some of the issues like they had Saturday.
Yeah, they don't panic, but they're not also like an overly hyped team as well. They're not like the rah rah. I stood there watching them the entire time, and it really is like you would when you watch the sideline, you would never know the score. You would never know if they're up by 20 or they're down by 20. It is just like an even heartbeat. And one of the things that I thought was really interesting when Illingworth was going to go in, I watched him go have a conversation with Tylen, and then he goes out there and they put together that drive. I thought that was really interesting for an early enrollee true freshman to have what's the word that I'm looking for? Just the maturity to go up and to talk to his teammates in the way that he did. That's a hard role to go out there and be a leader. And when you're coming in now as the third quarterback to come in and to kind of have that bravado.
Yeah, and he's kind of a cool kid. I know he's from California, but got a ton of family in Oklahoma. His mom and stepdad moved here. His grandparents were at the game, and we were doing our post game. Which in the past I'd be in the locker room, but with COVID-19, we're the players are calling Learfield in Jeff City, and we interview them. We're all upstairs in two different booths, and I look out on the field and down in the end zone. Here's Illingworth coming back out without his shoulder pads and helmet, in his football pants and cleats, and there's all of his clan. I mean, there's probably 6 or 7 adults and 4 or 5 kids, and they're all taking family pictures in the end zone. And I'm like, well, now that's a big family moment. They had a good day today, didn't they?
Yeah, I actually talked to his high school coach yesterday because when you can't talk to freshmen, you want to get a sense of who a guy is. I talked to his high school coach, and I think where he's from or where he played in California, like it's not really like the Cali kind of vibe from what I
it's
get a sense of. It's still horse country. And his coach said this is something that we worked on. Like he didn't come in being this leader, but he played for us for 2 years, and that was something that we made a point of. Is we want you to be able to command the locker room. And he said, it was by his second year that I noticed that he had really taken hold of it. And like I texted him after the game, I was just so proud of him. I was thinking like what that's got to be like as a high school coach. You turn it on, you probably never think that he's going to get in, and to see him go out there, his first snaps and play so well, I'm sure that was pretty fun for the whole family and for people out in California as well.
Nah, it was kind of a cool deal. All right, now here's the other thing. I didn't realize this. Are they just moving crews around because of COVID? I mean, normally I'm used to ESPN kind of locks in with certain crews, but is that kind of I guess maybe the sideline people becoming a little more mobile this season?
Yeah, the booth, the play-by-play and analyst, you have a set team and you have a set production team. The reporters, since we're the main ones on the road, most of our broadcast crews are actually calling them from the studios or at home kits just to try and prevent as much travel as possible. But since we're the ones on the road, they're trying to keep us as local as possible, which is nice because a 2:30 game Central Time, like I can get back home on a Saturday night, which normally wouldn't be possible, if I was, halfway across the country.
Yeah, and now the crew was here last week, right?
Mm-hmm, yes.
Okay, but this week Bob and
Jane will be in the studio in Bristol calling the game.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, there. Okay. And I knew
Yeah,
they were doing
it's
some
a
of that.
whole new world. But what's funny
It.
is like the spotter will be on site. And then different play-by-play are doing it differently, but like the spotter will have a camera and pointing to a board so that Bob or whoever insert play-by-play back in the studio can see where he's pointing to get help spotting.
Yeah, and you know what? In the SEC and I think some of the ACC, those crews for radio are doing them remotely.
Really?
Last I heard, the Big 12 was the only league where all the radio crews were still going to travel. But
Hmm.
like I get tested, so I've been told not to go out Friday, and then on the road I can't leave the hotel until I go to the game the next day. So
Yeah.
it's there's a lot of confinement to all this. Hey, Kris, we appreciate your time, and again,
Yeah,
if there's
anytime.
anything you need on this end, let us know. But it's cool to speak to a native Dallasite and a Mizzou grad. I went to Oklahoma State, but after knowing Kris and Dave Hunziker, I'm like, yeah, Mizzou would have been pretty good. And I do
Yeah,
like going to Columbia. That's one of the coolest campuses in the country. So,
it is, and very underrated.
oh,
It's
it's
people in my industry don't like to go there because it is a pain in the butt to get to. But once you're there, now they have direct flights from Dallas. Those didn't exist when I was in college, but so it's easy for me to get there. But once you're there, it's a pretty cool town.
yeah, I hated it. They're one of the few schools that left the Big 12. I'd love to have Mizzou and Nebraska and A&M back. And I've always said I would have helped Colorado pack for the Pac-12 earlier if they wanted to go. So
Well,
that's just the
how
way I
about this?
felt.
My sister went to Kansas, so when the conferences got broken up, it was I missed that rivalry because it was a once a year deal that we used to egg each other.
Oh, there's no doubt. Mizzou, KU. Dave Hunziker still doesn't say anything nice about KU. So, hey, Kris, I appreciate it. We'll see you on Saturday.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, Kris Budden from ESPN, and again.